Well, we're here where nobody wants to be, behind the target, trying to get an arrow out of the wood. But I'm going to show you in this video the right way to do it and how to not break your arrow, trying to pull your arrow out of the wood when it's only you, yourself, and you don't have anybody else around to help you out. You're watching the Kaminski YouTube channel. So I'm back here where everybody who has ever shot archery has been at some point in their life, myself included. You know, being an expert in archery or decent at archery, it doesn't prevent this. So I'm going to show you how you can get the arrow out of the wood with some basic hand tools without hurting the arrow one bit. And then also I'm going to show you how to check the arrow after you get it out of the wood to make sure it's straight and still safe to shoot, most importantly. So the last video I did, an intro to a series that I'm working on, how to progress into the NTS system, the National Training System of USA Archery. I shot an arrow into the wood on accident because I did the wrong anchor to display to the camera how important it was. My intention was to still hit the target and not to miss, but I shot one in the wood, and it's in a pretty precarious situation here because it's really lodged in there. I shoot about 46 pounds out of my recurve, and this is an X10, a very skinny arrow, so it's embedded probably pretty deep into this wood here. Now, as you can see, the knock over here is actually in line with the target. So in order for me to actually get a good grip on this arrow and to pull it out of the wood safely, I'd have to bend the arrow down to clear underneath the target butt. Yes, I could take it off, but this bail that I've got on here probably weighs about 300 pounds. So I'm not gonna take it off because I'm not gonna get it back on myself. And I'm only here by myself. And like I said, how do you get arrows out of the wood without hurting them and without needing a buddy to help pull the arrow out with you? Because usually you need two grown adults to pull arrows out of the wood when they're this buried. But with some very basic hand tools, some screwdrivers and a hammer, you can do this very easily, and I'm gonna show you how right now. So basically, as everybody hopefully is familiar, there are grains in the wood, meaning the wood runs this direction, like in this piece right here, the grain runs lengthwise in the piece. So what my goal is to take these screwdrivers and hammer them into the wood, into the grain where the arrow is actually lodged, not crosswise in the grain. So the blade of the screwdriver, I will not put flat and cross against the grain. I'm going to put it with the grain so it actually splits and opens the wood enough so I can get a hold of it and pull the arrow out. So now I'm going to reposition the camera and actually show you where I'm hammering it into the wood, so that way you can see how it's splitting and opening the wood a little bit, and that'll then make it easier for me to pull the arrow out. But in addition to these basic hand tools here, you got to have a really good arrow puller. This is my favorite one. It's the Booster arrow puller. It's this round one. It's like a little puck. You can put skinny arrows on this side and bend it, and fat arrows on this side and bend it. And it grips harder than any other puller I've used. I've not damaged one arrow with it. Those other ones that are long and, you know, cylindrical in shape, they slip on the arrow all the time. This thing, you can put so much pressure on the arrow and grab it so firmly that it just doesn't slip and it always comes out. This is my favorite arrow puller on the market. I'll have links in the description below in case you're interested. So anyway, I'll reposition the camera and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Okay, so it's actually a lot more complicated than I was hoping, obviously, because as you can see, the grains run this way in the wood. They run up and down this way, but the arrow is actually in crossing several of them. So the normal way that I would do it would be to take your screwdriver and you would want to pound it into the wood. See how the grain runs this way, parallel to the grain, right next to the arrow, like this. So what it would do is open up the two sides of the grain to allow the arrow to have less pressure on it to then be pulled out. But because it's in such an angle, now I might have to hammer the screwdriver in parallel to the shaft, thus opening up those wood grains a bit so I can get in there and actually slip this arrow out. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to start with this screwdriver. Yes, you shouldn't be hammering on screwdrivers because the handles break. This is a junk one that I've had forever. You should use a screwdriver with a full tang that goes all the way back so you don't bust the handle off. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do here. So I'm going to hammer this in parallel to the arrow. I'm going to start up here, and then what I'm going to do is hopefully pull this arrow out after I get at least this one screwdriver in. I might have to put the other one in too. So you'll see how I basically just drove it in right parallel to the shaft. It's not pointing down at the shaft. I'm not going to intersect and break the shaft, but I'm pounding it in parallel to the shaft, and it's going to continue to open up that wood. This is pressure treated wood. Both of these pieces of wood are pressure treated. This is a 1x4 or something like that, and these are regular 2x4s. So pressure treated wood's generally a little harder to get into, although it is pine, so it is softer. And I'm going to put this one down here alongside it on the opposite side, just to give it a little bit more relief. And now you'll actually see up here, and then I can see down here, the wood is now starting to split surrounding the arrow. So it's actually relieving and opening up pressure. And now I grab my arrow puller, grab onto the arrow, and actually it's so loose, I don't even need an arrow puller anymore. And that arrow came right out. Now this X10, again, like I said, very slim, very small, and going quite fast. Let's see. I mean, it was buried in there about this far. It does not seem to be much, but I can tell you that without hammering these screwdrivers in, there was no way I was going to get an arrow out like this. It came out so easily, and now I'll show you how to check the arrow for damage to make sure that it's still safe to shoot. And you can see Hoosier back here is supervising. So now you take get your screwdrivers out of the wood, and now we check for straightness. All right, so now I got the arrow out. Let's check it to make sure it's straight. I have a video already on how to do this multiple different ways. I'll have links in the description below and a card at the top up there so you can check out how to do it. But the basic way would be to hold it like this in your hand and spin it. I don't feel any vibrations. I can also blow on the veins holding it like this. Again, no vibrations. So the arrow is definitely still straight, so that's good. But how do you check it to make sure it's still safe to shoot? Especially because this is a carbon arrow, although it is aluminum carbon, so generally they have less of an issue. But you'll see that down here on the shaft, it says, see warnings in use and go to this website, blah, blah, blah. Not many people have ever gone to that website or actually read that stuff on their arrow. Essentially, this is what it tells you to do. You take the arrow and check it. You're supposed to check them actually very often. But usually I only check them if I shoot them into wood like this and damage them, potentially, or really hit them hard in another arrow on the target. But basically you just take the arrow, ignore the cicadas, and you bend it and you listen. Don't hear any crunching, cracking, crackling, and otherwise what fibers of carbon fiber would be rubbing together. If you don't hear that from these bends, I don't hear anything. It should be good. But then the next test is to test it radially. They actually grab the arrow and you twist it. And as long as the arrow doesn't go whoop and twist, and it doesn't go as you're doing this and flexing it, flex test, good enough, safe to shoot, still straight, didn't damage it, hurt the target stand, maybe my ego a little bit, but we're ready to shoot it again. No damage at all to the arrow, and we're good to go. So like I said, even people out there who are supposed to be experts in archery miss from time to time and shoot the wood. Genuinely was not on purpose. I have the link in the description below and a card at the top up there of the video of where I shot it in the wood. Kind of funny actually. But we're all good to go, and that's how you get your arrow out of the wood without damaging it. If you're new to this channel and you haven't yet, hit the subscription button and the notification bell. I'm working on making lots of archery content for every type of archer out there, every skill level of archer out there. And I'm working on making this channel a great resource to make you a better archer at home, free, no charge. So subscriptions do matter. They do help this channel out, and I would appreciate it very much.